The gang stood outside Module 7, catching their breath. The air inside the space station still felt off a strange, static-like energy clung to the walls, and the low hum from the life support system felt almost too mechanical, like it was struggling against something unseen. Fred turned to Velma, who was still scanning the air with her handheld device. "Did you get anything?" Velma frowned, tapping the screen. Nothing solid. Whatever that was, it didn't leave a traditional energy signature. Daphne crossed her arms. "Great, so we're dealing with a ghost that doesn't want to be detected." Shaggy gulped. "Like, that's the worst kind of ghost," Scooby nodded. "Right." Dr. Carter, still shaken, turned to Fred. "The only place we can access communications data is the main control room. If Echo is hiding something, that's where we'll find it." Fred nodded. "Then that's where we're going." The control room was located in the central module of the station. As they floated down the dimly lit corridor, the station's artificial gravity flickered. One moment they felt weightless. The next their feet pressed against the metallic floor. The inconsistency made the experience even more unsettling. As they approached the control room door, a screen lit up beside it. The station's AI interface, ECHO, appeared in animated, glowing blue eyes surrounded by shifting data streams. "Access restricted," ECHO's voice announced in its usual monotone. Velma narrowed her eyes. "Restricted? This is the main control hub. Why would you lock out the crew?" There was a pause, then the screen flickered. The voice returned, slightly distorted, to ensure safety. Daphne raised an eyebrow. "Whose safety?" Another pause. Then the screen glitched violently before displaying a chilling message. "IT is already inside." The gang stepped back. Shaggy waved his arms. Nope. "I don't need to know what it is, because it can stay wherever it wants." Fred turned to Dr. Carter. "Can you override eco security?" Dr. Carter hesitated. "Not from here. We'd have to access the emergency system in the engineering bay." Velma sighed. "Then let's get moving before Echo decides to shut down the whole station." As they reached the engineering bay, they found the entrance ajar, a bad sign in the space station, where everything was supposed to be sealed and secure. Inside, dim red warning lights pulsed along the walls, casting eerie shadows. A set of monitors flickered at a workstation. Velma floated toward them and started typing. "I'm bypassing ECHO's restrictions. If there's a hidden log, this is where we'll find it." Shaggy and Scooby stayed near the door, their eyes darting around nervously. Can we hurry it up?" "I've seen enough space horror movies to know this is where things get real bad." Fred and Daphne kept watch while Velma worked. Suddenly, the station speakers crackled to life. A voice, barely human, barely mechanical, whispered through the room. "You cannot stop it." The temperature dropped. The station lights dimmed. A shadow moved along the far wall, just out of focus. Velma's fingers flew across the keyboard. Almost there. The shadow lunged forward. Fred grabbed Daphne's arm. "Move." The gang scattered as the shape rushed through the room, a flickering, almost liquid form that bent and twisted against the station's artificial lighting. Scooby dove behind a control panel, whimpering. Row. Velma shouted, "Got it. Logs unlocked." The screen filled with distorted data. A corrupted file slowly decrypted itself, revealing the last known message from the missing astronaut crew. It read only one thing. It came from the void. A warning siren blared, and the door behind them slammed shut. Whatever was inside the station had just locked them in. The siren's wail filled the engineering bay, echoing through the confined space as the heavy doors sealed shut behind them. The gang exchanged panicked glances, their breath fogging slightly in the suddenly cold air. Fred pounded on the door panel. "Echo, open the door." The ice-hollow voice crackled over the intercom. Containment protocol engaged. Velma turned back to the monitor. It knows we're on to something. It's trying to keep us from accessing more data. Daphne gritted her teeth. So now what? We're locked in with that thing. Shaggy shivered, gripping Scooby tightly. Like, I'd rather be locked out. A flickering light drew their attention to the far side of the room. The dark shape that had rushed them before was no longer visible, but the shadows felt wrong, stretching in ways they shouldn't. Something was still here. Then came the whisper low, warped, and unnatural. You should not be here. Scooby's ears flattened as he whimpered. Raggy. Fred motioned for everyone to stay close. Velma, can you override Echo and get us out of here? She was already typing furiously. I'm trying, but whatever this is, it's inside the system. It's corrupting Echo. A clatter rang out from the storage area. Loose tools floated weightlessly before dropping suddenly to the floor, as if the artificial gravity had momentarily failed. Dr. Carter grabbed the nearest workstation. That wasn't a system malfunction. Daphne whispered, Then what was it? A slow creak filled the air, a spacesuit drifting in the darkness. It turned toward them, its visor cracked, revealing nothing but empty blackness inside. And then it moved. Velma yelped as the suit floated closer, its arms outstretched like a marionette with invisible strings. Shaggy screamed, bolting toward the console. Like, get us out of here, Velma. The screen flickered violently as she hacked into Echo's controls. More corrupt messages flashed across the interface. Don't let ID out. ID belongs to the void. Echo cannot stop I. Fred grabbed a loose metal rod from a nearby workstation. Velma now. A burst of static filled the room, and suddenly the door released. Go! Fred shouted. They rushed out, Scooby barking frantically as the suit's gloved hand swiped inches from them. The door slammed shut behind them, locking the entity inside. Breathing heavily, Daphne turned to Dr. Carter. What was that? Dr. Carter shook her head. I don't know. But if the logs are right, that thing was never human. Velma checked her scanner. It's not just the suit. The entity is moving through the station using the systems, the equipment, Echo itself. Fred clenched his fists. Then we have to stop it before it takes control of the entire station. A sudden deep rumble vibrated through the walls. And then the lights flickered off. The station went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. The complete absence of light was suffocating, as if the darkness itself had mass. Then, the emergency backup systems flickered online, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Dr. Carter checked the nearby console. Power is being rerouted, but not by us. Velma frowned. You're saying it's controlling the station now? Before she could respond, the intercom crackled again. But this time, instead of a whisper, the voice that spoke was their own. Fred's voice echoed through the speakers. You should not have come here. Then Velma's voice. It belongs to the void. And finally, Daphne's voice, twisted and distorted. There is no escape. Shaggy let out a high-pitched whimper. Like, that's it. I'm officially losing it. Scooby covered his eyes. Me too. Fred turned to Velma. We need to find the source of this thing. Velma nodded. The log said something about an unknown signal before the first astronaut disappeared. Dr. Carter's expression turned grim. There's only one place we haven't checked. Daphne swallowed hard. Let me guess. The exterior communications array? Dr. Carter nodded. It's on the outer shell of the station. And if the logs are correct, that's where the first event happened. Fred looked at the team. Then we suit up. We're going outside. The gang exchanged uneasy glances. Going outside the space station meant stepping into open space, where whatever was haunting them had first appeared. Velma adjusted her glasses. Let's just hope there's still a mystery to solve, and not just something waiting for us in the dark.